Was it called SMR?
ASMR.
Eryne's here with us today. You're going to do lovely.
If I laughed that loud, because I will, is that going to be obnoxious?
No, it's going to add to your character. And there we go. That's kind of evil, though. Welcome back to the Special Event Rentals podcast. I'm here with Eryne Sarabin.
That's not how you say my name.
Thank you for correcting me, because I'm actually so happy, because I actually asked Julia at reception, I'm like, how to pronounce her last name? Okay, Erin's going to take it from the top and tell you her name personally. How do you say it?
Sarabin.
Sarabin.
It's not even
Eryne?
spelled like Sababin.
Well, maybe I was just nervous. Do you want us to start right over?
We can just do a restart as well. Yeah,
He's like, this is not...
It's great for the bloopers, don't worry.
We usually don't have to do this. Okay, tell me your last name once more so I don't butcher it again. Sarabin.
Think about Sarah.
Sarabin. Sarabin.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Special Event Rentals podcast. Today I have Eryne Take it from here, Eryne.
Sarabin.
With Tycoon Events. Anyways, Tycoon Events is one of the elite event planners that deal with corporate and conferences in Edmonton. And they're here today to talk about all things conference, to AI, to do's and don'ts, and to transforming spaces year to year for clientele and sponsorship and partnership. Welcome, Eryne.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I think something special is happening. You are celebrating your 10-year Tycoon anniversary.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You've been in business for 10 years.
I know. It seems like 20.
20. But it kind of went by fast too? A little bit?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah?
I think from the day to day or the month to month and the year to year, it seems really long. But when you look back at the past 10 years, it does seem to have gone by fast.
And can you tell us a little bit about the Tycoon brand and what you guys do day to day, your team, and where it is today?
Yeah. I think when I first started Tycoon, I didn't want to have a niche. I wanted to be able to do any type of event other than weddings, because it's my thinking that every type of event, you develop different skill sets and different strengths. And so I wanted to be well-rounded. I wanted my team to be well-rounded. And then I think for me, what's really important, and I've never lost sight of, is I'm running a business. And so to me, the business comes first, and then my area of specialty, which is event planning. I know how to do event planning, but being able to run the business is a completely separate thing. And I always say that because I can use COVID as a great example, that if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have a well thought out plan, your business will crumble. And so you have to learn to be flexible, agile, adapt to the current state of things. And if you don't, then how are you going to get through those hard times? It's not enough to just know your profession at the end of the day. And so I think that's slowly progressed over the past 10 years, which has been interesting to reflect back on. And that kind of has a part to play in how the types of events that we do has changed over the years. How is that type of event supporting our business, and how does that make sense to our bottom line? And does that make sense for future planning when it comes to the company?
I think that's pretty cool, because I don't see a lot of event planners or a lot of companies putting the business first all the time. I think that starting out the business, they don't really understand that portion. And I think that's where like some companies or event planners, that's where they have crumbled a little bit, or you don't hear of their names. We see so many people annually that you come in, they start their business, and you never hear from them again. So I think that is something pretty cool that you have done, is put the business first.
You have to. Like through COVID, I know that a lot of people struggled, and I know that a lot of businesses crumbled. At the time when we were going through COVID, those were some of our most successful years. And I think that not only is that a testament to adapting and being creative with what what you're doing at that given state. But I think it sets you up for more success later on down the road. So coming out of COVID, you have all of these new skill sets. I know for us, we really focused on the education component. And so we became an accredited provider of professional resources with the Canadian Event Institute. And we did a lot of other professional development pieces. We put out a lot of resources. We did that, the virtual event resource, I think is what we called it, where we decided that we were going to invest our time at our own cost to do a ton of research into all of the different platforms, apps, software, and review all of them so that it made it easier for other people, that they knew what to expect. They had a reliable source to go to. It won awards, it got published, and I think that for us, I know that some people keep their cards really close, but for us, it was important to share that knowledge with people because it also meant that if more people were knowledgeable in the area of virtual events, then that would help support our industry as well.
I was just going to say it during COVID, you never saw an end to COVID. Yeah. So you were adapting to all the cards that were put in front of you. Yeah. And I also think you went full tilt. Like you really became a resource for the event industry and the virtual events. And if there was no end in sight and events were never to happen again, you knew exactly what to do and how to pivot.
And it's hard. Like I think my team means everything to me. And they're mouths to feed. And so it's one thing to say, I'm going to shut it down or I'm going to temporarily shut down. And that's just the way it has to be. That wasn't even something that was to be contemplated on my end. That I think it was a hard time for everybody. But my team is an extension of my family. And so we all look out for one another. And so it just wasn't an option that we were going to let people go, which is also why it was necessary to kind of get creative and think outside the box and look at what other opportunities there were out there.
Yeah. How big was the team during COVID?
We had 10 people.
10 people, and you kept them all on.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. No one was very stressful, very stressful.
Eryne, I feel like that's so admirable. I'm like gonna cry. No, just kidding. But I just feel like I remember letting everyone go when that message came out right before COVID, and that was crazy. Yeah. And you did the opposite. Yeah. I think because a lot of the people on our team at that time were also contractors, and so there weren't options for them. Right. It was impossible for them, especially because they're specializing in event planning. And so knowing what their future looked like and there not being opportunities and options for them, that's why it was just not even, it wasn't a question at the time. This is like a great little thing to talk about going into the next topic, because I kind of think that they're both, relatable, because virtual was the beginning of like AI being introduced to the event industry. Yeah. And I would love to kind of pick your brain. I've been to a couple seminars now about AI. It's super intriguing. I've started using it just for little portions of my day, and it's pretty cool, but I feel like, does it work? Does AI, does it help you planning events? Does it help you during events? Does it bring anything to you as a planner? Because I feel like these conferences I've been to, they sell it as it can do everything for you. It almost can cure cancer. Yeah. To be very honest, that's exactly what they were telling me. They can read data and issue, a cure for some sort of disease. And I just don't know how that happens. I think it's important to separate the two. So there's using AI tools and resources in your day-to-day, and then there's using AI as part of your event design. And my husband is the perfect example that he, because of his line of work, is always talking about AI. They use AI all of the time, and so he's a time and money kind of guy, and he'll be like, well, you should use AI to come up with your critical paths or your budgets or your minute by minutes and your run of shows and all that kind of stuff. And in theory, yes,
but it's not actually creating something that makes my job more efficient, because everything is so curated down to the last detail. And for some planners it's totally different, but we've chosen not to use it as a resource because you'll catch mistakes, you'll have to redo that work, and the least favorite thing of mine is rework. And so I'd rather just do it right the first time and not have to go and make those corrections. I think that, yes, we use AI and some of the other things that we do. I think it poses challenges that, as a great example, that if we're a company that's submitting a proposal for an RFP that's come out, it would be super easy to use AI. And I'm sure that there are companies out there that do it. And it kind of puts you on an unfair playing field in a way. And no longer are we just genuinely trying to present ourselves and our experience. We're coming up with completely different content than what has actually happened, potentially. I think that for AI and events, I said I wasn't going to use the word beef, but I can't think of another word right now, is that we talk about using AI as part of the event. So a great example would be facial recognition, and that's supposed to expedite the process of a check-in and all that kind of good stuff. And there are many other ways that we talk about using AI, like it could be photo booths. AI photo booths are a really big thing right now. But I think that as much as we talk about it, I haven't seen, and maybe it's just because me and like lack of looking, but there hasn't been a ton of how people are executing those ideas. And so it's great to throw all these ideas out, but I want to see them in action, and I want to see them done successfully. And I think that if they've been done well, awesome. But I always reflect back on who's attending that event in the first place, and will they be able to actually utilize whatever it is that AI has been a part of in an efficient way, in a way that they feel comfortable with and confident with. If you've invested that kind of money, are you getting a return? Like, is there value in that money being spent? I think that the demographic really is important. Let's say one of the recent conferences we did, it was an older demographic. And I can guarantee you that there would be a lot of people that had no idea what they were doing. Let's use the example again of facial recognition. None of them would understand it. None of them would know what to do. So again, you're having to have someone there to kind of coach people through and troubleshoot. And it's then no more efficient than if you were just doing the tried and true methods.
Yeah. When you're speaking, the only thing that I can think of that is related to it is the airport, Edmonton Airport. Have you?
Yes.
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 Okay. So there is so many people standing around to help you.
Yep.
Even though they have all of these machines. Anyways, I just think that you're bang on of what you're saying is even in, you're sitting there, they don't work, you don't know what you're doing, and you're flustered at the time. Then you get I just want to check my bag. Why is it not coming out? And then WestJet comes over and says, let me help you with that. So I feel like, is it working?
No, it's no more efficient than the old way. I think having that human interaction, number one, makes you feel better about the experience. Number two, you have someone right there to ask questions if you don't understand, as opposed to now it's become a two-part process that I'm trying to utilize the technology. It's not working, so I still have to call someone over. And imagine if that person's already, because it's not like there's a ton of them standing around. So now you're waiting for someone to finish with someone else. And it's just a frustrating process. Absolutely. And a lot of people don't actually know how to be using it in the first place.
And I feel like for events, they want that ease of just walking in, getting for a conference, getting registered and going to sit down. Yeah. They just want quick and efficient.
Because if you're doing that right from the onset, right from the very beginning, your attendees are already flustered. It's not a good first impression. Yeah. And so we want to set people up for success right off the bat.
Yeah, I guess I worry too, going back to the AI and asking it to build, inner communications for your business. I feel like everyone's going to have the same critical path. Yeah. And no one really understands it. It's not like I'm making it for special event rentals and I know the brand and I'm being very like careful of what goes in. It's just straight across the board.
Yep.
So that's kind of scary. And then another part is, and I don't know if you've recently been faced with this, but a lot of our clients, when they're sending inspo, is all AI.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful, guys. Like, it is beautiful. But, like, it's not real.
No.
It's not real. And it's not, like, even achievable for some of these conferences or galas. Like, they just don't have the budget fair enough because they're usually fundraising for something or wanting to give back. So I just feel like it's a letdown for us, but more so for the client, that we can't now, like, it's our fault. We can't do that. So I feel like that's also a challenge with AI.
Yeah. And you also have to think of the optics, like which is a conversation we often have with our clients, especially if you're working with a nonprofit, an association, if you're doing a fundraising event, that you don't want it to come off that you've like splurged excessively on things, because number one, your sponsors, your attendees who have paid to be at the event are going to see that, and they're going to think that that's what their dollar's paid for. And so I think it's a fine balance between doing something really cool and hopefully it works to doing something that is still really cool, but it's within budget and you're aware of what optics are being presented.
Yeah. And I feel like when you're doing it and not AI, you can manage expectations, manage budget properly. I want to go back to what I was just recently sent. It was for the Northern Lights. And this event was beautiful. AI created, Eryne, a beautiful event. And they sent it to me and they're like, we want this. And the Northern Lights were all over. Just imagine Haldee with like Northern Lights everywhere, but like everywhere. Yeah. Really. Anyways, and the tables had forests on them and they were tall and they were short and the chairs were beautiful in gold. And I'm just like, so what's your budget? Am I working with 5,000 or more? Like, I think that AI is cool, but I think I guess what I would love to do more with it is use it as a tool than more of a direct path of like creating our brand. And I think it's just absolutely crazy. And I think it's just even going to get more and more intense. Yeah. So stay tuned. We'll be back to talk about AI later. Kind of going into decor for conferences and statement pieces, because I find right now in Edmonton, especially after COVID, even maybe in the last 2 years, I find more and more events, including weddings. I know you don't do weddings. They're looking for more memorable moments and things that are unique to them. So I don't know if it's like a sponsor wall or if it's something that's more custom. Are you finding the same? And how are you managing that? And Yeah,
I think that it's being... So for us, and it's the business mindset, right? That if people are spending $1, there has to be value in that dollar spent. And I think it's coming up with creative ways that maybe you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And so if you're doing a statement piece, is there a way that, number one, it becomes a photo opportunity, which maybe means that you don't have to have a photo booth. And so you save money there. If you're doing a statement piece, can you include sponsor recognition as part of that? I think that it does come down to customization. I think of our clients all the time that if we're creating, I would never for my clients want to have something at an event for one client and then for my next client to see the exact same thing at their event. I think, yes, it takes creativity, which takes a lot of thought and time, but it's well worth it. And your clients will see that as well.
Totally.
Because again, there's value in money being spent there. And again, budgets, like some people have the budget for it, some people don't. There's still options out there though of how to get creative with whatever
budget. I also agree with that. I don't think, yes, I think a big budget is very nice to have.
Totally.
But also I find it really challenging for me when we do have those smaller budgets with champagne taste. It's like, how are we going to make this all work? And usually they're one of the most, like, sometimes they turn out to be one of the sweetest and the coolest experiences when we're really like getting down to the wire of budget or prioritizing chairs over linens or whatnot. I think it all really comes together.
Yeah.
What are you kind of seeing right now within the conference or gala world? Like, what are those memorable moments? Are they photo op areas? Are they more of that like interactive food station? Is there something that, is more current than both of those?
I think that the one thing you always have to consider is where people are congregating, where they're gathering. Because it's easy to throw decor at everything, but it's not having a maximum impact as opposed to if you had focused areas for it. I think that you can set up lounges and soft seating and you'd have florals everywhere and lighting everywhere. But if people aren't actually actively engaging in those spaces, you've wasted your money. And again, for a client, they're not going to appreciate that. For a guest, it's kind of a mess on that part. And so I think it's coming up with unique, I don't want to use the word moments because that sounds so bleh, but
experiences?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
I think it's creating intentional, that's not a word.
Intentional, there we go.
Yeah. It's being more intentional with how you're planning your decor, I think that kind of gone are the days that if I'm being totally honest, like people don't have the budgets to do, not all clients, like linens and chairs and lounges everywhere.
Whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah. People don't have the budgets for that anymore. And so I think that's kind of why we phased into, if we're going to do statement pieces, where are those statement pieces going to be and how are people interacting and engaging with them and what is the purpose of it? Because again, that then segues into, if you're doing all of these custom pieces, they can be expensive. And so what value is it creating for your client? That if they're going to spend 10 grand on something, is it valuable? Is it money worth spending, or is it just getting tossed? And I think there's so many facets to it that if you're creating something custom, I don't want to reuse that piece because I can't for other clients, nor would my client appreciate the fact that they've made that investment, but now it's getting used by someone else. And I've seen it happen before. And I think sometimes it speaks to the integrity of that person and they're just not looking out for their client's best interests.
Yeah, I've been in a couple of scenarios where little pieces like that have been reused.
Yeah.
And I feel like the first time it happened or I was involved in it, I was like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah. Totally.
It is a big deal.
Yeah.
It is a big deal because you are right. It's an investment of your clients.
Yeah.
And it's something that you guys curated together. Like you guys created that, you guys invested in it. So I think it is a big deal when things are reused.
Yeah.
Because I think they're pouring into it to have that uniqueness just for their own event. Everything you said, I've just agree with completely. I see a lot of our clients, for instance, we have this one client that has poured so much money into the foyer of somewhere, but no one stands in there.
Yeah.
And if they are, they're so crammed because where they're waiting for the ballroom doors to open. So you actually don't even get the sense of anything in the room.
Yeah.
You don't get the sense of what's on the table because it's so jam-packed.
Yeah.
You might see up and the photo area, but and a couple years ago, I'm like, let's just can everything. Let's pour that into something in the ballroom where everyone wants to be how in your home, it's always the kitchen everyone goes to. So I think well said. All around well said. Yeah, you have to think of what your priority areas are. So if you think, well, my AV is really important to me, I have to invest a good chunk of money in that. The same mentality goes into your decor as well. I love that. How do you, kind of going back a little bit, but how do you make everyone happy? How are we always coming up with these creative designs and not only client to client, but for that client, I can assume that they're coming back to you repeatedly year after year if they're annual events. So how are you changing things up for them and keeping them satisfied and their attendees satisfied? I feel like that's a big portion. That's it's a lot of work. I think it's number one, really understanding who the client is, the organization is. And I think number two, it's really understanding the
people that are in your audience. I think that once you understand the purpose of why people are there, who they're supporting, and what they're trying to accomplish, I think that then feeds the conversation of, okay, well, how are we designing the event? And for me, it's not just the event design is not just how it looks. It can be, it's the overall experience. And so I think that sometimes, this goes back to the decor thing, that I think, I don't want to say decor is easy, because I find that sometimes it's the most challenging and it requires the most like concentration and brain power. But it's kind of thinking outside of that. Like, it's great to see something, but at the end of the day, if I'm not having a great experience, if I don't feel engaged in that experience, if I don't feel like the amount of money for a ticket is bringing value for me being there, it doesn't matter. And so I think that I totally lost my train of thought.
I feel like you want every part to be connected a little bit.
Oh yes, thank you.
That's why I think where you were going. I think I feel that like from the decor to like the food to the smell of the room, everything kind of needs to be connected in the same purpose of why we're holding the event. Yeah,
I think often like people will talk about the five senses, which yes, they're important to engage. But
do you ever use smell?
I do.
Ooh, when's the last time you used smell?
What did we use it for? We used it actually for a conference, and it was lavender. And so part of why we had, so it was a wellness conference. Right. And so we had, like a lot of the venues will have, they're like circulated air. And so depending on the client, depending on the nature of the event, we'll put in diffusers within the room just to kind of add to the overall ambiance, the experience, obviously. One time it was really funny. This is off topic, but not really. We were doing a holiday event and it was circus themed. And so we had people enter in through, we tried to make it feel like a carnival, more carnival than a circus. And so we had created ticket booths. Like when you go to a carnival, you have to go buy your tickets. And so that was our check-in. And then from there, you were like escorted through kind of like an entryway that had those like marquee lights, and they had kind of like a ringmaster, if you will. And so then they went through this tunnel, and the idea was that then they would come out and they were completely immersed in their environment. And we wanted the entryway, the tunnel part, to smell like popcorn. And at that time, we had no idea how potent it would be.
It's so potent.
And so we were like soaking like black napkins with this popcorn oil that I had found. And so we were draping them everywhere so people would smell it. And it was the grossest thing ever.
Yeah, Erin.
And like the convention center was so mad at us afterwards because they had to deal with these disgusting popcorn smelling napkins that were like, it was this huge pile. And then we smelled like it. It was all over our hands.
That's awesome. I think it's really creative that you put the oil on napkins. I would have just got a popcorn machine, pop some popcorn.
Oh yeah,
that
I wouldn't have even thought of that for some reason.
If we pop it at the desk,
you
can smell it throughout the whole building. Anyways, for your next carnival event, let's not exnate the napkins. Really creative though. And take down oil everywhere. Good for you guys. See, creative. Going back to the five senses, and how that kind of all comes together. So I know decor is usually heavy, and I do agree that it's a beast of its own, just because there's so much of it. Yeah, like I feel like you handle you handle like thousands of people sometimes. Yeah, and I feel like so decor is a big part, but I think all of them coming together to fit the cause, I think is needed, because if guests do find that disconnect, not that they're sitting there like, oh, the food doesn't match the decor, but when it does, it makes a difference for them. Yeah,
I think there's a story. I think every event has a story. For me, it's really important that whatever the messaging of the organization, the company, whomever it is that we're there representing, that is instilled and echoed throughout the entire event. I want people to, number one, enter into the event knowing why they're there. And that goes beyond like the messaging. on an invite or what have you, I want to remind them, because people bring guests as well. And sometimes guests will be like, I have no idea what I'm here. I have what I'm here doing. I have no idea who I'm supporting. And so right from the onset, I want people to know that. I want that to be like woven throughout the entire experience, so that when people leave, they'll know why
they're educated there. A little bit.
Yeah, it is an education component, 100%. And I think it makes for a more seamless experience.
Yeah. So all of that homework you did during COVID paid off.
I guess so. But it's a lot of research, like for each one of our clients. And I feel honored in a way that a lot of our clients feel like we're just an extension of them. We're part of their team. We could be a staff member for all they know, because we've learned the in and outs of who they are. For something, let's say if it's a staff recognition event, or if it's a holiday event, I want to know what someone finds value in. Right. And I need to put myself in the shoes of that person, because it's easy for us to think, oh, I would think this would be fun, or I think this would add value to it, but will it really? Right. And that's where it either is like a hit or a miss. And so I think you not only have to go through what that story and the common thread is through an event, but you also have to really understand who is in the audience, and you really have to understand what the purpose of the event is and what that message has to be. Yeah,
I feel like you have to captivate everyone almost. So I feel like, you have a lot of research on your hand for each event, and even the annual events that you do. Yeah. Do you see a lot of repeat customers for the annual events? I feel like, so you kind of have that demographic down. Yeah. And know what they like. Do you do, at the end of any of your conferences or events, do you do surveys? Are they helpful?
I think I feel like the people that will fill out a survey really have something to say. And that can be good and it can be bad. You're not going to please everyone. No. But I think that the majority of the time, the feedback that you're getting is valuable. Because again, like I said, it's the people that want to speak up.
Yeah, that will change something, or 100%. Change like it for many people too. Because I feel like if it's coming from her, there has to be more in the crowd that feel the same way. Yeah. Or him. Yeah. So I feel like I never answer the surveys though. Maybe I should start.
If they're short, like they have to be, again, like intentional. They have to be well thought out. I think you have to, again, think about, is there value to asking that question, and what are you hoping to gain out of asking that question? I think a lot of surveys just ask the same old questions, but if you're thinking for next year's event, or however often it happens, how am I going to implement whatever that feedback is, if it's of value and we want to take it into consideration?
Yeah. I feel like events are just becoming, they always were a beast, but I just feel like now they're just like the evolution of events. Like I remember going back, and you could like you drop off on a Thursday, pick up on a Monday. You're just faced with all of these challenges. And I just think events are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they need all of this attention to detail and research and sponsorships and partnerships. Yep. I know this is not for every event, but what is the secret, Eryne, to like maintaining sponsors and partners? What is the difference? Yeah. And is it the event or planner's responsibility to maintain those relationships? Yeah. What's your role in all of that? Because I do think that sponsors and partners, they're a big player when it comes to some of these events. Yeah.
I like to think of sponsors and partners as the same thing. Okay. I think that they are built into this relationship of what the event is. And there's obviously a relationship that's being fostered between themselves and the client. Yeah. And so it's kind of thinking about that being the relationship. And I always think, again, I'm always thinking about the succession of something. And so if someone is sponsoring something, if there's a transaction that's involved. And so how are you creating value with that transaction? How are you creating value in that relationship? And then how are you creating value enough so that they're going to come back and want to support again? Right.
And so does that take a lot of time and energy?
Yeah. I think that, so some of the clients we work with, they have like fund development teams, and they'll be responsible for going out there and finding partnerships and sponsorships and all that kind of thing. When it comes to, and we tend not to get involved with that part, because again, you're trying to foster that one-on-one relationship and create that connection. Because again, it comes down to relationship building. Where we typically will get involved is once a sponsor or partner has been secured, then it's the fulfillment piece. And usually if there's some kind of sponsorship package that's affiliated with an event, we'll be part of that as well. Makes because sense. The implementation piece then falls on us to do. And so we want to make sure that sponsors are not being promised something that they're not able to actually receive.
Right. And then what does that, so let's say I sponsor an event, I give you X amount of dollars or whatever. What's my say? Do I get a say in anything? Do they feel like they get a say in the event and how it's run? Do you ever run into that? Or is it just kind of just very transactional?
I think it depends on the level of sponsorship.
Fair enough.
I think that obviously the ones that are your presenting sponsor, some of your more higher end sponsors, I think there has to be that flexibility in a way, because they're spending big dollars at the end of the day. I think some of your sponsors that are at the lower tier, they don't expect the moon and the stars. Right. And so I think it's understanding each, I'll say, tier of your sponsorship, and then also what the motivation is for that person to come on at that sponsorship level. And when you really understand the motivation for wanting to contribute in that way, then I think it's helpful for the conversation of what that fulfillment piece looks like.
I think you should start your own podcast, Eryne.
No, I don't think so.
No? What do you mean? You're so well spoken.
No.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming, but I do have a couple more questions for you.
Okay, let's do it.
I want to know what you have in store for Tycoon events in the next 10 years. What do you want to see for Tycoon?
Oh, I don't want to say.
Oh, it's a secret? Can you give us just a little, teaser? Nothing?
Okay. Oh, two teasers. Number one, so last year we did start up a second company. We were so busy though, and there was a lot of change internally. And so we just didn't have the time and resourcing to actually hit the ground running. So hopefully that will start this year. So hopefully we're going to roll that out. And then the second piece is that, when I started Tycoon, I never wanted to be an event planner. Or no, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, well, I guess so. I never thought I was going to own an event planning company. Right. I should say that. I had been there, I had done that, but I knew I wanted a business. I've always had weird and wonderful businesses since I was a kid. Right. And so that was my main motivation. And this kind of goes back to the business thing that, I knew event planning like the back of my hand, but I didn't know how to run a business. And so I was like, well, let's do something that I know how to do, and I can learn how to actually build a business, sustain a business, grow a business. And the thing I really wanted to do was open a series of venues. And so we actually had a venue space that we had put in an offer for, and then before we had signed off on the papers, COVID hit. And so we were so lucky that we got to retract the offer and we didn't have to go down that road, because that would have been pricey. Yeah. But it also gave us more time to think about what that would look like. And that's kind of the reason that, yes, Tycoon Events exists, but we're incorporated as the event estate so that we can bring venues under that umbrella.
That's pretty cool, Eryne.
Yeah, we're excited.
Well, I look forward to being there every step of the way, being your biggest cheerleader.
Thank you.
The second question I have is, what would be your dream event? Oh. I know that you're the business girl, but I feel like you still have a dream event. Would it be a conference? Would it be something that is AI driven? Probably not. But you know what I mean? What is it? Do you ever think of that? Or is there something really cool that you want to do without giving everything away?
It's not necessarily the type of event that I want to do, but there we have in our bucket, if you will, a whole roster of things that were like, I really want to execute this, but it's just waiting for the perfect client to come along. And some of them are like absolutely crazy ideas. I know that a lot of venues know that they're up for a challenge when we set foot in them, because I will usually have weird and wonderful requests for them, which, poses challenges, but there's always solutions to them. I know that one of them, it's like a totally crazy idea, is so when I lived in London, England.
You lived in London, England? Mm-hmm. For how long and when?
It was a while back. We moved there in 2011. So my husband, who is now my husband, and I moved there on our 1-year anniversary. And so we had never lived together or anything. We didn't really know each other that well, but we decided, hey,
let's go to London, England.
He was there for his master's, and I had gone there with nothing, but I ended up working for Gordon Ramsay. I beat out 2,500 applicants. I don't know how that happened.
Were you cooking?
No, I did his events. And I literally went into
with this.
I literally went into the interview, and at that point I had applied for so many different jobs and I wasn't getting anything because everyone was like, I have no idea where Edmonton, Alberta is. And that sounds like small time. Sure. And obviously the events they do there are like gigantic. And I had one event job prior to, but I literally was working, no word of a lie, in the cleaning closet, like with the cleaning supplies. And I was getting paid under the table, but I got to be a part of some really high profile events and celebrity events. And I left because it was obviously a horrible experience. Mm-hmm. And I got so desperate. Like I was applying to be like a cleaning person at hotels. It didn't even matter what my background was at that point. I just needed a job. And I had applied with a lot of agencies. And so one day I got an email and they were like, we want you to come in for an interview with Gordon Ramsay. And I was like, there's no way.
We're not entering back into that
I'm going to get that job. And at that point I was so frustrated and so fed up that when I went into the interview, I literally just asked them to give me a chance. I was like, I know my stuff. I know I can do a good job. I know I can make you proud, and got the job. I have no idea how it happened. And to beat out 2,500 people was insane.
And just to say, I want the job. Like, I
was like, you just have to take a risk.
Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
I was just recently in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
His face is everywhere. There's not a corner you turn without seeing his face. He has like restaurants everywhere. I was like, well, does he own Las Vegas now? Like, why?
Probably.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the dream event. You were not done.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Sorry, everyone. That was a little bit of a.
I think it was on top. It was like on the top of Harrods, if I'm not mistaken, and it was Valentine's Day, and so they had created like what do you call it? You know, like the gondolas that are in like the water, like the little, like the boats. Yep. They had created that on the top of Harrods. And so they had this little, like, I don't know what you'd call it. I don't know.
Like a little, like stream? Not stream?
Yeah, like a little like stream.
Like in Venice?
Yeah, like if you were in Venice. Okay. And so they had like I don't know what those gondola people are called.
Me neither, but they have the stick and they push everyone.
And so they had those for each one. And so like a couple or two people or whomever would get in the boats, and then I get gondolas, and then they would take them around. And so then as you're going around, there were little stations. And so the first station you go to, they would have like hand you drinks. Yeah. And it was like incredible. And I was like so mesmerized that they had created this. And so we had pitched it for one event. We were going down the whole thing of like how we're actually going to implement this and execute it. And then something happened and the whole event got canceled. And so gone was the option to do that.
So you would recreate that?
100%.
That's pretty cool. How would you do the water?
I don't know. I didn't get
tarp
that far.
All over.
Yeah.
Hall D.
Yeah.
Then fill it with water.
Well, we did have like that one Capital Power event. I think it was their 10th anniversary that we made it look like it was like a lake property. And so the foyer became like the front.
I remember this.
Yeah. And then when you went into Hall D, it was kind of like the back of the property. And so the front, we were like, we need like working fountains and everything.
That's crazy.
We made that work somehow.
I feel like event planners are miracle workers. I feel like we can make things happen.
Yeah.
And we can cover up a lot too. Like we can, like for the client's sake, like we can like move things forward and like really...
And then have a laugh about it.
Have a laugh. Yeah. And just get stronger. The relationship gets stronger. We become best friends. It's great. Anyways, thanks so much, Eryne, for coming on the podcast. And we would love to see you back sometime.
Of course.
Stay tuned.